Hey, Tarun here for Karma Classrooms, and in this episode we're going to be talking about active supervision, or being with it in the classroom. Come on, let's get into it. Alright, here we go. We're going to be talking about active supervision in the classroom, or being with it in the classroom, as some commentators call it. And this is really about you being present, being aware and fully alert at all times when you're managing your class. Why it's so important, and some techniques on how you can do this well. Before we get into it, make sure you subscribe or follow on whichever channel you are listening in on. And if you're enjoying the content, please feel free to give us a thumbs up, and we'd love to hear from you in the comments. Alright, so active supervision. What is that? Active supervision is really when you as a teacher are actively aware of what's going on in your classroom at all times. You need to be alert, you need to be awake, you need to be present, and you need to be engaged in what's happening with your classroom. You can't get stuck behind your desk working on your computer, alright? You can't get stuck at the front of the room just helping one student all the time. You have to actively supervise the class, actively move around the class, actively look at each student and make sure you're keeping eyes on students that may have the tendency to cause disruption or misbehavior. So some people call it with itness. You've just got to have an awareness of what's going on. Be with it. You know, I remember monitoring a teacher who was having trouble with disruption in her class. And she said they just talk non-stop, and they were a Year 9 class, and I went in to observe her, and as she was writing on the board, two boys stood up and they walked across the room and went and had a conversation with some of their friends. And then as the teacher finished the sentence on the board, the boys scurried back to their seat, and she turned around and told them all they were making too much noise, and then she went back to the board and continued writing. And again, these two boys stood up, walked across the classroom, started a conversation, and then as she got to the end of her sentence, they ran back to their seat. And this went on for 3 or 4 times, and she had no idea what was going on behind her, and she complained to me, you know, see, they just talk all the time. And my comment to her was, it's not just talking that's happening. You have no awareness or understanding of what's going on in your class. It's really important that you position yourself in ways that you can keep an eye on the class. If you have to write on the board and you can't see your class, well, there's a couple of ways you can do that. You can stick a mirror on your whiteboard so you can observe the class. You can get somebody else to write on the whiteboard, or perhaps you can use a PowerPoint that doesn't require you to write on the whiteboard. Whatever it is, you've just got to keep eyes on your class. You know, when students ask for your help, make sure you don't position yourself in a part of the room where your back is turned to the rest of the class. Position yourself behind a student who's at the back of the class so you can see everybody, or if you're at the front of the class, position yourself in front of the student so you can still see the class. Better still, ask a student that wants help to come down to the front so that you can watch the class and you can still help that student. Just be aware, eyes open all the time. Don't turn your back, because that's when the mischief happens. Another way that you can actively supervise is you can constantly move around the classroom. Walk around the classroom regularly, do regular circuits around the classroom, because that is what helps them know that you are keeping eyes on them. It's really important when you set up your classroom, make sure you've got enough space between your desks and chairs that you can actually move between students, get in front and behind them. Don't create barriers or blockages in the way that the class is set up so that you can still move around and monitor the class. Also, actively supervising as you're walking past students who may be misbehaving or off task. You know, something like a little tap on their desk or a hand beside their book, just to let them know you're watching, just to let them know that you're there, will help to jog their memory, bring them back to reality, make them concentrate again. And so just be moving about, have your eyes open, be watching, use little gestures like a tap on the desk or a hand beside their book or even a finger on their shoulder, but just have this active engagement in the room. Don't get stuck at the front, don't get stuck behind your desk, don't go to sleep or turn your back on the class. And what you'll find is that you will have far less minor disruption, because your with itness will actually let them know that they're not going to get away with anything. And so Things like smiling and looking across the classroom when kids are, when kids want to misbehave, they often look up and try and catch your eye to see if you're paying attention. You catch their eye, you smile, let them know you're watching them, or give them a hand signal if they're doing something they shouldn't be doing. Little micro gestures, little signals that don't require you to talk, but just let them know that you're there, can be very powerful in helping to reduce disruption and misbehavior without being negative or without being in their face. Okay, so that's active supervising. It's absolutely crucial for maintaining a class well, and it will help you to gain more time in delivery of instruction. It'll help you gain more time in engaging with your students, and you're going to be much calmer and less stressed for it. Well, I hope that was helpful for you. Please let me know in the comments what you do to actively supervise your class. What are some tips that you've got for us? And if you've enjoyed this episode, please consider sharing with somebody that would enjoy it also. And if you're listening on our podcast, we'd love to have you review us on iTunes or Stitcher. If you could take the time to just let us know how we're doing, that would be very much appreciated. Until next time, I'm Tarun Stevenson for Calmer Classrooms.